Sabrina 2000s comic issue 93. Salem thinks that at one point, he would have given anything to own Sabrina's wands. It flashes back to when he was a human in the other realm. He's mad at being given a magicless wand, when we're supposed to believe it's common for wands to not have magic in them. He reveals that the wand with actual magic in it is not a wand, but an extremely rare unicorn horn with magic inside. Well, if it's being used as a wand, it's a wand. And he's paying this guy to give him valuable information on his whereabouts. If witches can zap up anything throughout the franchise, why wouldn't people have zapped up a whole bunch of unicorns for a unicorn-riding dude ranch? So why would unicorns be rare? He says he thinks it's just a myth. You'd think someone would have already found it and kept it by now. Witches would get to industrialism way faster because they could just use magic to get food immediately. So most of them wouldn't need to spend time farming and hunting. So science and technology would be worked on way earlier. That means witches should have had the internet 1,000 years ago, or at least some form of telecommunications going. So someone should have found the wand and word should have gotten out about it because there'd be better transportation. He wants to find the wand himself, and when his mind gets read, he yells at the person who wants to assist him. How am I expected to believe that very few witches can read minds? Witches have been omnipotent since the start of the series. And Sabrina didn't say that mind reading was rare when Barth read her mind. He tells the mind reader that he'll imprison every mind reader once he becomes the leader. Why is he being stupid to someone trying to help him? Why is Nocturna being stupid and even considering working for him? Shinji has long hair, so it wasn't obvious that she was a girl right away with that face. Too bad Salem's backstory is being developed on finally by a bad writer. Because normally, I would be a lot more hyped at the idea of finally seeing this. Instead, I just feel cheated that this issue is wasting my time with an irrelevant past and not furthering Sabrina's plot. Because this is about the manga's interpretation, so it'll never matter to the sitcom or anything. Nocturna is a pirate captain who wants to help him find the wands because she needs a capable magic user to help protect her pirates properly. And her pirates suck at magic. I would think the most useful spells would be the ones that are easiest to cast. Imagining something appearing, imagining yourself somewhere else. I mean, that's really all you need to know as a pirate. So why would she want him? Instead of the plot continuing to progress, I'm told why the unicorn horn got separated from the unicorn. There used to be a good unicorn who helped people and got tons of gifts in the process, but he still wasn't satisfied, and his greed made the horn turn black with decay, inconveniently. You know, he could have easily been unsatisfied because of insecurity, because nothing he'd do would ever feel good enough for him. His mother warned him, but was ignored. And are you kidding me? It's not even explained how the unicorn's horn fell off. I naturally assumed that the horn fell off after the unicorn died and rotted away. Why would it rot and fall off just because the unicorn was being bad? It's blatantly obvious that the only reason an animal would evolve a horn is to attack with it. That's a destructive thing, so why would the horn be associated with goodness? So I didn't need to read that convoluted backstory at all. I'm just wondering why the unicorn had sentience. Well, there are crazier things in this universe. It's just that it could have easily not been the case, so it seems stupid. Somehow it's impossible to kill a unicorn for its horn, even though we all know witches can do anything, including separate a horn from a horse. Even though we know that witches can summon things, so there'd be a trillion different things they could send at a unicorn. How stupid does the writer think we are? This isn't even trying to be the same franchise anymore. Witches can still teleport in this manga, so a witch would just teleport the horn to them. Salem's told where the wand is. The island of elves, where unicorns are most common. Gee, too bad he can't just do what little Sabrina did and cast a spell to see where the wand is by casting an information spell, and then he just warp to it, or warp it to him. And eventually the shipmates spot a sea serpent. The pirates are called cowards, naturally, because even someone who sucks at magic would easily be able to magic it to death, come on. And somehow, Nocturna's magical abilities are mostly just weak, which is why she doesn't teleport all over. You'd think the sea serpent would be killed with one hit, because a witch used magic on it. Why didn't he turn into a toad? Zelda threatened to do that to a trick-or-treater. Instead, I have no reason to take it seriously when the rest of the scene somehow happens in a ship involving witches. So Nocturna wants to grab the core, she falls in the water, and for some reason Salem doesn't warp Nocturna back to the ship, and instead wastes precious time swimming down to get her, because this writer doesn't want to write witches and forgets about it constantly. And then uses magic against the core finally to kill the serpent. Everything this writer wrote has been arbitrary. Why couldn't Dan Parent or Bill Gallagher have written the comic? And somehow, Salem thinks he needs to use CPR to wake Nocturna up, because it happens in other franchises all the time, when it could have just pointed and instantly woke her up. Nocturna's upset to learn that the serpent's gem sank, and she wants to dive back into the water and get it. Even though witches can teleport things. Why is my time being wasted with this complete detour? How could they possibly think it was okay to have the flashback not be over in one issue? No one cares about Salem in this manga. Sabrina 2000s comic, issue 94. This story arc is so boring I'm not motivated to read all of its dialogue when it's focusing on Salem when he was trying to take over the world instead of Sabrina in a MacGuffin gathering plot that wouldn't be happening. It looks like the most evil council member from the present was refusing to let Salem and his pirates go to his island. Why doesn't Salem just use magic to freeze him in time right away and then do whatever he wants? I just want to see Sabrina's storyline get finished. It's not a good arc when I want it to end as soon as it began. The ship takes too much damage because it doesn't have an invincibility spell on it, and Nocturna wants to retreat. Even in lieu of an invincibility spell, it could still be zapped up with the best possible materials. And she doesn't let Salem repair the ship magically because he'll need his magic for teleporting onto the island. They go to a civilian on the island, he draws them a map, Salem walks into an invisibility dome, and somehow only an elf's magic can break through the barrier because the dome is covered in elvish writing. Salem wants to offer to pay an elf to help him, or just brainwash one. It's not like the council can see everything that every witch can do with spy witches, because then they'd have known about the resistance and Sabrina's abuse of magic lately and instantly stopped it. Also, why didn't he just summon an elf out of thin air? Well, because that'd be creating magic. That wouldn't stop witches from the 70s style comic from zapping up potion ingredients. So eventually, after that boring, worthless padding, Salem offers to pay a kid version of Celeste as a reward for leading him to the unicorn horn. The pacing in this comic should be a lot faster. I get bored with slow pacing, especially for a badly written story. The unicorns don't trust her anymore for this, and somehow the pirate captain feels bad for her despite being evil, and somehow the evil pirate captain is mad at Salem for wanting to grave rob. When Captain Plunder didn't want to grave rob, I'm not the only one that thought it was stupid, and all of the other pirates were fine with it. Salem says, and you call yourself a pirate. If the writer knows it's stupid, why is it happening anyways? You'd think he'd just point and change everyone's minds. Because he's already committing crimes, so if he thinks he can get away with this, he clearly doesn't think he's being spied on. Finally he gets the wand, and he randomly kisses the woman that creeped him out by reading his mind earlier. He could zap up any woman he wants, including someone who can't read his mind. This is just fiction-y. They decided to take Celeste with them to repay her, because her unicorn friends hate her. You'd think that if she could talk to the unicorns, they would have all warned her not to help the pirates, and explained why, and this whole story wouldn't happen. This is stupid. Why doesn't Salem zap up new unicorns who like her? So he wouldn't take her with him. Even if she is an orphan, she'd still know that it would be a lot of hard work, and it would involve stealing. She wonders if he really loves her, and is smart enough to use magic to read Salem's mind, and finds out that all of his thoughts are about power and destruction and war. He could have very easily not decided to try to date her. So she breaks the wand in half and throws it overboard. Then conveniently, Celeste was also awake at night. I guess she overheard them yelling at each other. So Celeste traps Salem in a bubble.
This is how he got reported to the authorities. And Celeste is still gonna stay with the pirate crew. Then how did she become an actual queen with a criminal record? That's not something anyone would expect. She just seems like a normal civilian kid. It's so convoluted to try too hard to give her a backstory that doesn't make sense. At least the story's over. Sabrina 2000s comic, issue 95. Sabrina meets with Landra, wanting to restore Barth's memories. And she wants her around in case she gets corrupted again. Landra believes in her. And Barth shows up, somehow thinking he's going to school at his age and already did his homework. He's nothing but a forced comedy relief character. And absolutely none of his jokes are remotely funny, so it's just pathetic. And the writer's in no way making up for the comic being depressing and melodramatic by having him here. And what frustrates me is she probably thought she was. Oh, he's crazy, he can do whatever. That's just lazy writing. It's not even trying to keep us invested. You'd think a witch could just point to make himself not crazy anymore. Sabrina uses magic and tries to restore his memories. He remembers something that doesn't matter and still acts crazy. So the writer had the gall to waste my time. Landra wonders if he's just been playing dumb, so that better mean he does remember. And that would make sense, because he clearly said in front of her that he remembered something he did when he was a kid. So clearly he doesn't have amnesia. Sabrina's told that her hands have returned to normal, so that's somehow proof that the spell worked. It does make sense that since he's content with his life now, he wouldn't waste time going to the Resistance because it would risk his life. If he didn't get amnesia at all, then obviously he's here because he's scared. Sabrina says she can't restore Harvey's memory because it'd be for a purely selfish reason, ruining his relationship. That wouldn't help uncorrupt her. It's stilted that she says, "Get rid of the darkness inside." What an embarrassing line. Imagine if this was in a bad Sonic fanfiction. Why is a Sabrina comic taking itself seriously? There's not enough charm when you do that. It's just a depressing comic where I hate most of the characters, including Shinji, because he doesn't trust Sabrina, and it's a long, irritating argument I don't want to read. Why does he still trust Hemlock when she clearly says she prefers Sabrina using the destructive wand, meaning she's an obviously evil-style character? Landra convinces Shinji to give him that list of names to let Sabrina heal people. Why didn't it just not show the scene and have them get it from Shinji? He's supposed to be their friend, and it's absolutely ridiculous and nonsense that he's stuck with Hemlock this long. We never see her be nice to him. He has no reason to keep liking her, apparently. It's a conflict ball just because it's fiction. Why do these girls have the bird brain idea to waste time trying to explain to people that they're here to restore their memory? Just do it instantly. So they go to a civilian who wastes their time being mean and not believing them and slams the door on their face. Sabrina tells Landra that no one's gonna like having a wand pointed at them and says she should just ambush them. Duh. Thankfully, Landra doesn't disagree like an idiot. And Landra's not allowed to talk to Shinji's brother because he's responding to that lady's call about them. Why didn't the story start with Sabrina restoring people's memories a lot? Then Shinji yells at them for inviting them to the secret headquarters because he's worried that the calling cards will fall into the wrong hands. Sabrina says that this was the best way to get all of them here at once. God forbid they just brainwash them into deciding to go here. They can get away with having a revolt against the Queen, so they're clearly unsupervised. So Shinji bores me telling the people stuff I already know. Why are they talking as if they're opposed to Shinji's plan even though their memories were wiped? Wouldn't they want revenge for what happened to them? Eventually Barth shows up and tells Shinji what we already got told a long time ago. That the original Renegade Blade swore to protect the Queen. Shinji naturally says, "We restore your memory and this is the thanks we get?" So the guy who's been nothing but a dumb comedy character is now being taken seriously, and tells those people to go follow him. The story ends with the council getting the calling card to the secret headquarters from Hansel, who found it in the trash, when they could have easily just not had a calling card. I was always baffled that he was used again after the first issue he showed up in. And the one-dimensional bad guy wants to have a discussion with the Queen. None of this arc should be taken seriously because it's built on plot holes. Like the plot hole that she could have just passed a note to any one of her co-workers about how he's treating her and what he's been doing. After all, Sabrina gets away with passing notes to Shinji about a Four Blades meeting, And we didn't see her immediately get in trouble with the council or have to deal with Boss Blank instantly warping to her and killing her. I guess this manga is more interesting than just being the animated series comic the whole time. It's harder to tear myself away from when I'm reviewing it. Issue 93 was a pointless flashback to Salem's past for padding's sake, where somehow I'm supposed to find it believable that after Salem got told about a magical wand, he didn't warp it to him, and instead went on a journey for it to have the plot. And a sea serpent attacking a witch ship wasn't killed or shapeshifted instantly to have the plot. So I don't take the story seriously. The cliche plot of getting a MacGuffin only works for a series where the characters can't cast teleportation spells. The writer just got lazy coming up with the plot and didn't think it through. So how could they possibly think it was okay to have the flashback not be over in one issue? As usual with this writer, none of it would have happened. The whole reason the story happens the way it does is because Salem randomly decides to date this woman that he hated earlier for reading his mind, when he could just zap up any woman he wants who could be perfect. He's already planning on taking over the world, and he for some reason needs an elf, and not an elf that he summons, to grave rob to get what he wants. Like, he already thinks he can get away with anything. What's restricting him? So he dates someone he could have easily decided not to date, and she breaks the wand in half, and he gets trapped in a bubble by a little girl. Yeah, that's not how anyone would have imagined how he got defeated to be like. The sitcom is clearly better. This story was about Sabrina restoring the memories of the former renegade Blades. And the council ends up finding out where their headquarters is because they decided to have a calling card tell them where to go, instead of Sabrina casting a spell to make them all have a dream about where to go. Which was good enough for Sabrina's aunts to do in Little Sabrina. That got them to go to a yard sale of theirs just fine. Not to mention if they're getting away with having a revolt against the Queen, and Sabrina got away with brainwashing Harvey into not dating Amy anymore, then obviously she can get away with mind control spells. And the Renegade Blades decide not to follow Shinji because they swore to protect the Queen. Why don't they remember what their original mission was? And tell Shinji that.